Good morning, everyone. I'm Sunny He, partner at Hashkey Capital. Today, I'm very delighted to have this fair chat to talk about the past, present, and future of DeFi with one of the most distinguished entrepreneurs whose company brings speed, scalability, and efficiency to the industry. Yuri Kalaman, CEO of Bloxroute. Hey, Yuri, welcome to join us today. And how about you give us a quick intro about yourself and Bloxroute?
Sure thing. Thank you, Simon. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Uri Klarman, CEO and co-founder of Bloxroute. We're called Bloxroute because we route blocks and transactions. So at the core of what we do, we propagate transaction and blocks, the blockchain stuff, at the speed of light. Our average propagation is under 140 milliseconds. And Bloxroute kind of like started from my PhD thesis. I did my PhD at Northwestern University and started Bloxroute with my then advisor, now co-founder, Professor Kuzmanovic, and TLDR saying Flash Boys for DeFi, right? When DeFi really kicked off, all of a sudden, everybody wanted to hear information fast. Everybody wanted to send information fast. And we allow that. And I hope today we'll talk a bit about that.
Thank you. So, I know Bloxroute comes back in almost like 2018, 2019. That was really the time where, DeFi doesn't really get yet. So, and Bloxroute in the industry has been in the industry for, since then. So you guys has really looked into all the details and nuances of what's going on across the industry. How about you give us a quick insights? Why did DeFi really kick off in the summer of DeFi in 2020? And what is really the mental leap from Bitcoin to DeFi? And what really the grand vision there?
Okay, so that's a good question. So I assume most people here who are listening are familiar with Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin, store of value, hard money. And we know we have these transactions, which are transfers. And eventually, like Bitcoin is a ledger, right? So if you can think about it, there is a state of Bitcoin, kind of like, okay, how much Bitcoin do I have? How much my Bitcoin Sunny has? How much each one has? So my PhD is in computer science. You could almost think of it as like, well, it started with Bitcoin. So like, oh, we could transfer information. And then in 2014 comes along Ethereum and say, what if each transaction isn't just a transfer? What if each transaction could be an instruction? Like a computer has instruction. We're using Zoom right now. Zoom is a program that runs on my computer. It runs on your computer. And it basically just run on the memory and kind of say, oh, load this information, store this information, add +1. I'm moving my hand here. I need to change. Everything is just load information, add numbers, multiply, divide, and store it back. It basically comes down to that. And so Ethereum comes, maybe we could have that each transaction is an instruction. And so the state of the blockchain doesn't just hold a ledger and who has how much. It stores a memory like a computer. So basically, each one of us, anybody who runs an Ethereum node, we kind of like run a replica of the same computer and we run the same programs. I'm like, okay, what kind of programs does it make sense to run that everybody run? Chess, games, less so, right? It's kind of like, it doesn't really, like, sure, gaming on-chain, like if we have enough scalability for it. But turns out that financial programs, whether that's exchanges, whether that's like lending and borrowing, whether that's like any of the DeFi primitives we developed to date, those make sense. Those you go, oh wait, the ability to send. We just saw, we saw Jeremy Allaire in the waiting room. Like literally today, I sent somebody for a side project I'm working on wanted to send $50,000. So I sent one USDC, got it. And so in Telegram, sure, sending the reminder takes 15 seconds, 20 seconds. And if when 9 years ago, when I bought an apartment and I wanted to transfer, I'm from Israel, to transfer to here, here in the US, I wanted to buy a house. Well, it's going to take a while. I think it's like 8 days. I almost lost the apartment I was bidding on because the money didn't come. And so turns out that the leap from Bitcoin to Ethereum is, oh, do we run programs? And then what kind of program makes sense? DeFi, decentralized finance, actually makes sense. And I really got pilled, I got DeFi pilled like deeply, I think, after I started working in DeFi. Like in 2019, I heard the former chairman of the CFTC. Okay, I think it was Pantera Summit. He was giving a talk there, and he was talking how he was at the White House during the 2008 crisis. And 2008, Lehman Brothers Bank is about to collapse, and they're sitting, in the Oval. It's a great story, in the Oval Office. It's like a movie, and they're like, okay, what do? We have enough money to prevent Lehman Brothers from falling. To other banks, something like that. But if there are 20 underwater banks out there, we can't save them. And so they need to decide what to do. Turns out they don't know how many banks are underwater. Yes, all their books are open. Yes, the regulator have access. But this is like each one of them took mortgages, create a pool out of them, slice them with that, sold it to the other banks. Each bank took that, mix it together like a salami, cut that, sold it to others. And so they need to sit there. Yes, they have the books, but they have no idea which bank is underwater, which is not underwater. And, now they decided, not to save Lehman Brothers, even rather fail. We had the entire 2008 crisis. 4 years later, 4 is how long it took them to figure out there were 2 other banks. Okay, there was enough cash for the US government to really minimize the 2008 crisis. It's like that what got really kind of like me excited about DeFi. If they just had real-time insight into what's actually happening in all of this financial infrastructure, we, the world, could have basically averted almost all of the 2008 crisis. And so, there are quite a lot of cool things about DeFi, but the real vision in there, this idea of transparent, global, open financial infrastructure for the world, I think that's really grand vision of DeFi. Why is it there? And the value, yes, it's nice that I can send USDC fast, like anybody who runs a fund here. You don't have to go to the bank. You don't have to, it's an entire dance. You don't really have to do anymore. So there are efficiencies there. But some of it is fundamental. It's kind of like opening a store, brick and mortar, like a real store versus, oh, I want to open an online store. Anybody, it's that easy to open online. Sure, I have an idea. Let me try it out. I'll throw a website or whatever. Half a day later, I have a store because everything is online and I could reach everybody. Now I need, to win. I need a really good product and marketing and everything, but it opens up the opportunity. And DeFi kind of like does that. It's kind of like, let's remove how hard and complicated it is to do anything in DeFi. You have a cool idea, yield-bearing asset based on T-bills or whatever, like any of them, go and try it. Anybody in the world right now could do it. So yes, now we have a lot of people trading online, etc. Sure, I don't think that's the interesting piece. But the idea that every person could take their capital and do something out there, I think that's kind of like the mind-blowing thing.
It's definitely like bring more utility and more applications in into in on-chain is important. And how Bloxroute come into that, and what did you guys do in the past to support the frenzy, the increase of DeFi?
So it's fine because you started mentioning it earlier. When we started Bloxroute, my vision was completely different. My thinking was, if we can send information really fast at the speed of light, can we do larger blocks? Could we shorten the time between blocks? So this was, 2016, 2017 was when the idea kind of like really started to pick up in our heads, and like Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash, the block size debate, like should we increase the size of blocks, shouldn't we? And we built this entire thing where like, blockchains could do larger blocks at shorter time intervals. And we had the infrastructure before DeFi even existed. So we were just like, oh, let's send information really fast. And then the DeFi summer happened and people And you asked me earlier, like what happened in 2020? Well,
Yeah.
we had like ETH Delta, which is kind of like an on-chain order book, but that was in kind of like 2017, but that didn't really work because with a real order book, market makers have to keep sending transactions, like increase, like really change their positions constantly. And 10 transactions per second for everybody in the world is just like not good enough. So that didn't work well. And then I think more than anything in 2020, Uniswap had already kind of like kicked in and said, wait, we don't need necessarily an order book. We could do something that emulates an order book. In some ways it's better, in some ways it's worse, but it works. Okay, like bottom line, it actually does something and it works. And so that kind of kicked off, and then that alongside like maker and lending borrowing, right? Everybody and their sister who are betting on crypto were kind of like, well, I have $100,000 worth of ETH or Bitcoin or whatever. And like, it's just sitting there. It's not doing anything. It's like, well, maybe I could just give it, I could play in these like lending borrowing platform. I could give and allow people kind of, okay, I have this liquidity, I could lend it out. And even more, it's like, okay, I could put all the money I want into it and then just like borrow USDC against it. So use it as a collateral. And so I don't have to stop eating and stop buying food and like new clothes, etc., because I want to put it all in crypto, which happened to people in their 20s when they're getting into crypto. And so that kind of kicked off in the DeFi summer of 2020. And then all of a sudden, people wanted to see other transactions. They wanted to hear what are the prices, because you have CEXs or centralized exchanges, and you have DEXs, the decentralized exchanges. And they want to know where the price went up, price went down, their transaction, did they land, didn't land. So the idea of the hearing information fast and sending information fast became extremely valuable. Kind of like the idea of flash boys, right? If you're 1 millisecond faster than everybody else, price changes, you're the first one to send your transaction and land it, and so you win. And so we were just 16 engineers at the time or something like that, and we moved from making no money to, I think, 10 million ARR over the course of like 5 quarters, because everybody started using us. Like 40% of all DeFi volume from the largest traders, think Jump, think Jane Street, think kind of like Wintermute, the really big ones, to, anon people in a basement in Taiwan and anywhere in between, realize it's a tool that they need. And so like, this wasn't our plan even, but all of a sudden, we're in the middle of DeFi. And so we're very happy to be in the middle of DeFi ever since.
Yeah, and I think not only in the Bloxroute is really supporting the scalability and fast propagation in the DeFi summer. I think especially if we separate the industry involvement into post merge and pre merge, I think Bloxroute has played an even more significant role after the merge. And I believe that if we look into the ranking right now, Bloxroute really I would say on the top of the relayer. And I understand that you guys are also behind supporting most of the builders. So MEV, has been an important concept of DeFi after the merge. So can you tell us more about what is the current state of the DeFi, and where does this MEV that everyone are talking about fit into that, and where Bloxroute really get into that?
Sure. So we have this like, here's this utopia. We're building DeFi. It's a new global financial system. It's going to be awesome. We could do all these things. It's going to be great. And then everybody slowly figured out that, I think traders or HFTs were really the first to figure out, let's use Bloxroute. Let's get our transaction ahead of other people. And then, I don't really, speed is part of it because you need your transaction to land and reach fast. But really, it became an issue that if somebody makes a trade, if you want to front run it, just pay the mining pools to try and front run it, or whether the mining, but then it was mining pools after the merge became validators. Maybe they try to front run it themselves. And so MEV is this concept like there's quite a lot of ways you could make money by seeing the trades and front running them. Or if there's an arbitrage, why let other people capture the arbitrage? I am building the block. I'll just inject my own arbitrage transaction. So MEV is that, and it's changed the DeFi landscape significantly, and unfortunately for the worse. Okay, so MEV isn't creating value. Okay, it's not, okay, we're building a new protocol and it creates more value. Rather, it's almost like a tax. It extracts value from users who make bad trades. So, if their pricing is wrong, they're willing. If price of ETH is $3,600, because it just like jumped crazy right now, and somebody says, "Oh, I want to buy, like I'm willing to buy even at 3,700," then someone's like, "Well, I'll just buy before you, let you buy at this higher price, and then sell it afterwards, and you'll push the price up, so you'll get a worse execution, i.e., the user will get a worse execution." And the validator or somebody who works on behalf of the validator extract that value. And so MEV became this large problem in any chain, like doing DeFi, where it's kind of like, okay, people extracting value, and how could we help users not to get front run, not to get sandwich, front running protection, all these kind of things. And so MEV became a major thing in all of DeFi. In Ethereum specifically, there's this now mechanism. Instead of validators building their own blocks, instead of that, they'll just give what is called builders, third parties. So HFTs, DeFi or arbitrageurs, anybody out there who's kind of like, oh, you don't need to build your block. Here's a block I built. If you accept it, it will pay you, let's say, $100. And somebody else comes and, oh, this would pay you 110. And a different dollar, oh, this would pay you 120. So this auction mechanism where the validator doesn't need actually to do all of it, but choose who extract the most. Well, the validator keep a cut to themselves. And so we are, or let's say it this way, we're very deep in the MEV landscape. I don't necessarily like the current state of affairs, but the idea is like, okay, how can we improve the system to the point that we could actually reach that DeFi utopia? And so like Bloxroute is very much in the center of it. We run two of the largest relays. All of the builders, except I think for one, are either investors or customers or both. They're all customers, but some of them are also among investors. Did I answer the question?
Yes, absolutely. Like a Bloxroute, to my understanding, we know you guys well, that and also use you guys, that definitely sit in the heart of the whole supply chain of MEV, and that has really developed. Basically, after the merge, the whole tech stack changed significantly, as you mentioned, and there just new concept and new technology just come up, and there has to have something like Bloxroute that really create this fast propagation, or make it smooth of all the transactions. And what do you see the most recent competitions, for instance, some new concept coming up like intent, for instance, that some projects like Flashbots, Swawi, and people talk about this, but seems there are less activity lately. And what do you see the challenges there, and or is that a direction facing the challenges? I'd be curious about your insights there.
So the idea behind the intents is something like, if the user just sent transaction, we see that he gets front run and he's getting affected and value is being extracted from him. And any value that is being extracted, that's money that he's losing. And so intent is the idea of someone who come say, well, I want to buy $1,000 worth of ETH or Sol or Bitcoin or whatever, and then have what's called solvers compete to fulfill his intent. And so like one solver will say, oh, you want $1,000 worth of ETH? I will give you 0.3 ETH. And then somebody comes and says, like, I'll give you 0.31 ETH. somebody else like offer 0.32 ETH. And whoever gives it the best result, it kind of like allows the user, well, I don't really need to make a transaction. I don't really need to hold everything. I don't need to pay for gas or anything. Here's my intent. I want this thing. And you guys now compete and try to kind of like fill it. My critique of this entire thing, and as I said, I'm a giant DeFi bull. Okay, like I want DeFi to compete with CeFi. It's kind of like it's what gets me up in the morning. It's what gets me excited. So it's kind of like we need to have a good solution. We need real infrastructure, not like semi half-baked results or solutions. Intent kind of boils down to being just like an RFQ, right? It's kind of like, well, Wintermute or SCP or any of the other, large HFTs who are deep in crypto basically come and say, well, you want to buy $1,000 worth of ETH. Here's my RFQ to you. Like, here's the price I will give you. And RFQs are great. They're great for a million things, especially towards retail. But the price you'll get from an RFQ is always worse than the real price, right? Hold on. Okay. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
Okay. So the price is going to be always a bit worse, right? Because whoever gave you the RFQ is going to keep a few basis points for profit, and also they'll need to keep a bit of extra, to compensate for risk. And so this will never compete with NASDAQ or Noisy or, Amsterdam or Shanghai or Hong Kong or any of the large exchanges of the world, right? This will not be able to compete. So it's a good solution. It's nice for some things. Robinhood uses something very similar when they sell their order flow to Citadel, right? It's kind of, you get almost the price, right? And it's non-toxic volume. So you're really getting like good execution. But that's not the thing that will allow us to compete. So it's kind of like, I think it's useful for a few things, but I think it's overpromised. Okay, like intents are not going to take DeFi to compete with CeFi, just because really at the bottom boiled to just being an RFQ.
I think this is really, resonant your grand vision that really brings the DeFi or the on-chain activity into the mainstream and into the to compete with the institution level. And it's always been.
Are they listening to us right now? The institutional level. I thought so.
I hope so. But what potentially the alternatives for this, I would say, grand vision. I know that Bloxroute has not only been dominating in the EVM ecosystem, but also, you guys come to Solana and potentially go to some other ecosystem. Would that be a new alternatives for this grand vision, or what is the future, Bloxroute seeing from here?
So I'm actually like in 24 hours, I have a meeting where basically all the core devs of Solana and Tolly and a few others are kind of like they're here in Chicago and kind of like hosting them to literally discuss on that. But Solana is an example. It's not like Solana doesn't have MEV or like something inherent about Solana, but it's something that we're throwing out and kind of like a product we're building on Solana. The problem of MEV, or let's say differently, MEV is a confusing name. Okay, MEV is arbitrage, atomic arbitrage, CeFi, DeFi arbitrage, and arbitrage is a good thing. I want all the HFTs in the world to compete to capture arbitrage, because that means that if I want to buy something, then I don't need 7 monitors open and see which market the price is. No, all the markets have the same price, because if it was wrong, it would get corrected. And so I could go and trade in any venue, and I know that I'm getting the current correct price. The problem of MEV really is front running and sandwiching. The idea that I send a trade and somebody gets their trade ahead of me, not because they want to trade ahead of me. Like Jump and Citadel would always be faster than me, but they're trading because they saw my trade and they wanted to front run it and act on that information. And so the problem of front running and sandwiching is a short-term incentive problem. Okay, in the long term, incentives are aligned. Front running on Ethereum pays all the validators together something like $100 million per year. $100 million per year is a lot of money for everybody except for the Ethereum stakers. Okay, ETH stakers have $100 billion worth of ETH. So for them, it's like plus 0.1% APY. And so they would actually be better off if there wasn't front running and no sandwiching, and if DeFi just worked. And so the problem isn't the long-term incentive. It's that when I am the proposer of the next block, then I have the incentive, to front run and sandwich. Yes, I'll make $1. I'll destroy $10, but I'll destroy it for everybody. And so it's kind of like a tragedy of the common kind of thing, where, yes, it would be great if it didn't happen, but when it's my turn, it kind of makes sense for me to do it. And so once you have this insight, you could think of how to solve it. So we're working on something kind of like exciting on the Solana side. Kind of like, wait, can we identify validators that at any given time, they just make more money by not front running versus by front running? And so that's a thing we're working on, probably to release soon.
That's great. I think we're all the people here to try to bridge the gap between the short-term and the long-term incentives, and try to bring the blockchain into the mainstream and into the institution, and really bring the transparency and equality into the industry. And we definitely really appreciate your insights here, and we're going to continue to bridge the gap and bring the technology and the efficiency into the industry. And thank you so much for the time and the insights here, Yuri, and thank you for the time for all the audience here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunny.
Bye.